He's even mentioned civil war at one point, talked about there would be bloodshed. I am going to spend some time with the criminal justice system, with the justice system, asking them, tell us what's going on with the domestic terrorists. Are they preparing a civil war against us? Should we be concerned about our safety?
Maxine Waters on MSNBC. I mean, I don't think I have to say anything more in setting this up. Maxine Waters, MSNBC, nutbags.
Well, let me just say, when I tweeted about Trump talking about the Constitution, I basically said in my tweet that he had disregarded the Constitution. He doesn't have any respect for the Constitution. I got over 1.3 million hits on that. And so I think in the final analysis, the American people see through him, and they're going to be guarded in how they deal with this election. Let me just say this. I'm worried that he's so divisive and that he's talking about retribution and they're talking about revenge. And I think that that's dangerous. He's even mentioned civil war at one point, talked about there would be bloodshed. I am going to spend some time with the criminal justice system, with the justice system, asking them, tell us what's going on with the domestic terrorists. Are they preparing a civil war against us? Should we be concerned about our safety? What is he doing with this divisive language? It is dangerous, and we're going to have to make sure that we understand that we're not at risk with this man talking in the way that he's doing. Mm-hmm. This is not good for this country, but he does not care about democracy. He does not care about the Constitution of the United States. He's in love with Putin and Russia and Kim Jong-un and North Korea and all of that. And so it's not just that he's a criminal. This is a man who disrespects the Constitution and democracy. And we have got to find out what they're doing as domestic terrorists tried to take over the government January 6th. How far is this going to go? Are they going to be attacking? Whom are they going to attack? What are we going to do? I've got to get on with trying to get an investigation going about that.
Boy, that is a whole big bag of nutso. Let's break it down little by little. I'm sorry to make you suffer through this, but she needs to be responded to. This is a very powerful woman, by the way. I mean, this is who the Democrats elevate as the shining lights of their party, the great intellects that run their majority or minority right now in the Congress.
Well, let me just say, when I tweeted about Trump talking about the Constitution, I basically said in my tweet that he had disregarded the Constitution. He doesn't have any respect for the Constitution. I got over 1.3 million hits on that.
So this is a sitting congresswoman who is making a point about Donald Trump and, I guess, not caring about the Constitution. She's determined that the people are on her side because when she tweeted that, she got 1.3 million hits. I don't think she knows what hits means. Is that impressions? Is that what she's meaning? Because what she needs to understand is she doesn't have any idea what a ratio is, okay? So, honey, I hate to break it to you. With all due respect, Congresswoman, but I would say over half of those 1.3 million hits you got were people calling you the moron that you are. Okay, just I'm sorry I paused it right here. Good Lord, I think some kind of bug is going to fly into that pie hole there and cause the poor Congresswoman to gag. Just because you get 1.3 million hits on Twitter, ma'am, doesn't mean that people agree with you. I assure you. I love that this is the and Jonathan Capehart, the very serious journalist from the Washington Post and MSNBC, doesn't pause and say, "Excuse me, Congresswoman, I'm sorry, what does that have any relevance to? How is that relevant to anything? I got 1.3 million hits when I challenged Donald Trump on the Constitution." Okay. Boy, she's honestly, I do love that Reverend Al is on this panel because Reverend Al shows up and says, yeah, I don't really want to do the show today. Well, we've got Maxine Waters. And Al's like, oh, well, she'll make me look smart and normal. Okay, fine. I'll jump on board. You got me.
And so I think in the final analysis, the American people see through him, and they're going to be guarded in how they deal with this election. Let me just say this. I'm worried that he's so divisive and that he's talking about retribution and they're talking about revenge.
So they have no self-awareness of the fact that they've just gone through this entire criminal justice process, and they've sicked the Justice Department, they've sicked a special prosecutor, they've sicked DAs in Manhattan and Fulton County. The guy who was the number 3 at the Justice Department was the goon for Joe Biden, leaves the Justice Department, goes right to Manhattan and actually tries this case. It's got Biden and the Democratic Party's fingerprints all over it. They politicized it from day one. They even trotted out Robert De Niro out in front of the courthouse to do a victory lap on this thing, knowing that over 80 million people voted for Donald Trump in the last election, that the polls show that the majority of the people think that this is a political motivated criminal attack on him. And she thinks that he's being divisive. And she thinks there's something wrong with him suggesting that there should be retribution or revenge, where this entire thing is retribution and revenge. And she's either lying, ignorant, or completely lacking any self-awareness of what the Democrats have done themselves. Yeah, I do love all the stuff about Putin, by the way. You realize how much Vladimir Putin benefits from what the Democrats have done to Donald Trump this last week. All of the political persecutions that Vladimir Putin engineers in his country, we have now lost every moral standing to say anything to him about it. It's the Vladimir Putins of the world who have benefited from Maxine Waters and Joe Biden's political dementia and absorption with Donald Trump. From this point forward, no American president can lecture any country like Russia about their political persecution of their political opponents after what we just saw. She wasn't done, though. There's more from her.
Let me just say, it's a sad day for this country. I'm still shocked and amazed that his supporters would follow him with the lies and distortions that he continues to give to the American people. He says it's rigged. He says if they can do this to me, they can do it to you, bringing in others to cover the lies that he's telling. I'm amazed that those who claim to be so patriotic are so unpatriotic. I'm watching not only what happened in January 6th in Washington, D.C., but what is happening now. And men and women in the Republican Party don't have the courage nor the patriotism to stand up for democracy and what's good for America and understand and be able to honestly say to the American public that this used to be president. This former president is wrong. Whenever he loses, wherever he loses, he'll say it's rigged. He'll say that somehow he doesn't deserve to have to be lawful. Well, as the president said, no one is above the law. Those jurors on that jury are to be commended for what they have done. You had 7 men and 5 women who stepped up to the plate and did the hard work and rolled out to America and told America the truth. This man is guilty, not 1 time, 2 times, and 3 times, but on all 30 pounds. That's amazing.
Right. She's a clown and she hates you. She just said as much in that entire dissertation that you just heard. And by the way, again, God, I'd love for her to come on this show. I'd love to have a one-on-one. Maxine Waters, if you'd love to do a quick one-on-one interview, I'll give you 10 minutes. You can say whatever blithering idiocy that you want. I just have a couple of questions, and I'll even telegraph them for you. Here's one of them. When Donald Trump says, if they can do this to me, they can do this to anybody, how is he wrong? I mean, really, if the law can be used in this way to go after a former president, in a way, and to prosecute him for something that the Justice Department and the Federal Elections Commission chose not to look at because they didn't think a crime was there. And then a DA who ran for office saying, I will find something to prosecute Donald Trump with. If they can do that to the former president of the United States and the current leading candidate for president right now in this country, how can they not do this to me or to any American citizen? Why shouldn't Americans be terrified of their own government when you see that if they put their mind to it, they will put you behind bars and they will ruin your life? How is he wrong? Please explain. I want to be wrong. Please tell me. But we move from the ridiculous to the offensive, despicable liar, Adam Schiff. Boy, there's something about California Democrats, isn't there? Especially Los Angeles Democrats. Let's move from Maxine Waters in South Central to Adam Schiff in Burbank and West Hollywood. He's running for Senate now in California, and he had plenty to say about Donald Trump and the sentencing that's pending.
No, I don't think it'll be dangerous for the country. And we have seen Trump urge mass protests outside the courthouse that never materialized. But nevertheless, this is, I think, what Donald Trump is aiming for. This is essentially his threat that if he gets jail time, that he's going to encourage his supporters to rise up. And we saw the very, deadly results of that on January 6th. So I don't think the public is going to respond to that call. I hope we learned something from the awful experience of January 6th. But it's very clear what Donald Trump is suggesting here. And this is something I think that the judge needs to take into consideration also, not to be intimidated by that threat, but as a further evidence, this defendant not only doesn't accept responsibility, but is willing to endanger people, just as Trump is willing to violate the gag order and potentially endanger witnesses or jurors or the judge himself or family members. That's something the judge ought to be considering.
So when Donald Trump says that it's damaging to the country and will harm the country if he is convicted and jailed, he's not asking for people to rise up and for there to be riots and civil war and civil disobedience. We're not Democrats, okay? We don't do that, okay? We remember the riots of Los Angeles after the Rodney King verdict. We remember just 4 years ago with George Floyd. We don't burn things down. We don't rise up. We don't. No, when he says it's bad for the country, it doesn't mean like that, you numbskull, hate-mongering liar. No, what he says is the God's honest truth, that the use of our judicial system and our court system and our law, our legal system as a political weapon to punish one's political opponents is destructive to the very fabric of our nation. And he knows that. He's just a liar. By the way, quick follow-up question for you, Adam Schiff. Are you going to show us all that evidence you said you had about Russian collusion? Because you used to come on CNN like almost daily, and you told us that you had all this evidence, but because you were on the House Intelligence Committee, you couldn't share it with us. Well, I'm sure things have been declassified now. Can you show it to us, please? No? Oh, it doesn't matter. We're CNN, and we'll keep having you back day after day after day, even though you lied to us during the entire Trump presidency. It doesn't matter. We lied too, because we just hate Trump, and that's why we exist. Good night now.